Our group decided to have our students do a digital reconstruction of Roald Dahl's The Witches from a English unit. So for this lesson sequence, we broke it down into 4 parts that align with the computational thinking. So the first lesson and section would be decomposition. So in this lesson, students break down their story into elements. So those elements include the scene, character, and direction. So they would basically break their story up physically, literally, and stick it into their books under different headings. In the second section and second lesson of this lesson sequence is abstraction. And in this lesson, students would be eliminating unnecessary data from their stories. So they would start big and go through and eliminate scenes that didn't affect the story arc. They would then go into smaller details, so eliminating things like hair colour and eye colour and clothing, particular clothing types, to create a more generic feature. The third lesson and aspect of the sequence is patterns and pattern recognition. And so in this lesson, they'll be using the generic data from the abstraction to create multiples, so be able to repeat those patterns because they have a generic mold. The fourth lesson and aspect is algorithms. So in this lesson, the students are physically creating their story. So they're using a set of steps or instructions to solve a problem, which in this case is creating the digital reconstruction of their Roald Dahl sequel. So this lesson sequence has links across the Australian curriculum. So within English, there are vocabulary links. So they'll be, in the first 2 lessons, they're discussing nouns, noun groups, and adjectives, as well as using them within the program itself. They will understand that spoken, visual, and written forms of language are different modes of communication. They'll understand that nouns represent people, places, concrete objects, and also abstract concepts. They will identify visual representations of characters' actions, reactions, speech, and thought processes in narratives. They'll discuss how depictions of characters in print, sound, and images reflect the context in which they were created. They'll compare opinions about characters, events, and settings in and between texts. So text includes visual text and also the digital text that they're creating. They'll be displaying general writing expertise, so that's using capitals, full stops, proper punctuation, and they're also able to write their story or write their recreation in Word, so a word processing document. They'll discuss how they'll compare opinions about characters, events, and settings in and between texts. They'll also create events and characters using different media that develop key events and characters from literary texts. They'll create a short, imaginative, informative, and persuasive text using growing knowledge of text structures and language features. And they'll be selecting print and multimodal elements appropriate to the audience and purpose, which is exactly what this lesson sequence demonstrates. Within the maths key learning area, there are links between patterns and numbers, specifically things like identifying and describing half and quarter turns, and also creating displays of data using lists, tables, and picture graphs. And this program specifically uses a grid map, and so it's related to the content descriptor of interpreting simple maps of familiar locations and identify the relative positions of key features. So all that can be done within this lesson. The links to the science curriculum represent and communicate observations and ideas in a variety of ways. So they do that throughout all 4 lesson sequences. They participate in guided investigations to explore and answer questions. So this one we see specifically in abstraction, where with the teacher facilitating, they apply abstraction to an exemplar storyboard. It also links to students using a range of methods to sort information, including drawings and tables, and through discussion. Students benefit from this lesson sequence as it allows them to physically code and be able to see where they might make mistakes and then correct them. They also see that a program can't function without specific instructions. The lesson incorporates content from across the curriculum, so it enables them to utilise knowledge as well as prior knowledge to create a coding sequence like this.